West of the Rockies, you're along the
Y2K. How can we prepare?
Their machine and radios, throw them into darkness for a few hours.
We're fighting for our lives. My must survive.
5,000 air filtration, water filtration.
Coming at you from the frozen tundra that is East Central Alberta, Canada, streaming live on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Twitch, Instagram, Rumble, and Odyssey. Welcome back to the workshop where we create community, find freedom, promote preparedness, and share success. I am Toolman Tim. Today is January the 18th, 2024. This is episode 417 of Workshop Radio. How are all my fellow delinquents out there? It is significantly warmer, almost 30 degrees warmer than it has been the last little while. It is quite nice. Let's open up with a rule to live by, put it into the randomizer, and I got rule number 11 this week, and it is rule number 11. Fear never motivates long term. Now, where does that come from? Well, a lot of things, but the big one for me has been all the folks that I've met over the years that have come into prepping via an event, whether it was last fall's, mass rollout of the emergency broadcast system, whether it was somebody prepping for Y2K, whether it was the 2008 collapse. It's the same as somebody going on a diet because of a health scare. It can be a really, really good short-term motivator. Fear is great to get you going, but fear wears off. You need to come up with something way, way better than fear. And that is your own well-being, the well-being of your family, the love of your family, anything like that, a passion to learn something new, a passion to take care of yourself, all of those things. Because like I said, if you let fear drive you when you're getting into prepping, eventually you're going to burn out and walk away, because simply put, that fear can't last forever. We saw it in 2020 going forward, and no matter how hard people try to push fear on you, eventually it wears off. You just go numb to it and you just lose all interest in prepping. So fear never motivates long term. You always need to find a purpose, and hopefully that purpose is looking after yourself, your family, and all of your loved ones. So I hope you enjoy that this evening. If anybody was trying to watch on Rumble, I did a test. It did not work, just so you know. Rumble now has a new static stream key, whatever you want to call it. I had been using one that I had to manually input every single night. It was a bit of a pain, but I was doing it. They said, hey, it's working. Well, as soon as I went to go live tonight, it said, meh, not working. So if anybody was watching on Rumble, I apologize. Always trying to make things better, but eventually, once in a while, you're going to have some flub up. So there you go. I see some new folks in here this evening where knives are life. Yes, they are. Oh, man. I was going to show you my neck knife, but it's upstairs because I just changed into my new shirt. Do not comply from Special Operations Equipment. My good buddy, John Willis. Appreciate him sending them out to me. And Jason Reed. Love to see you. He says, Jason Reed, my first workshop live stream. Been listening for years, but it's awesome to join in real time. Hope the frozen pipe drama wasn't too hard on you. No, I'd say I lost some hair, but there ain't no hair left up there to lose. So no, it wasn't too bad. It's great to have you. Great to see all the folks in here this evening. So let's open up with this evening's precious metal report. And I guess that's what we're going to call it. Basically, I just kind of pull an article pertaining to precious metals. If there's something pertinent out there this week, of course, and without, going into fear mongering, the ratcheting up tensions in the Middle East have caused people to look for a safe haven. And what have we talked about for precious metals, i.e. mostly gold and silver? People look for a safe haven investment and they head right there. And you'll see this one right here, guys. Gold sees some safe haven demand as Mideast tensions heat up. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you is when you see the price of precious metals go up, don't run out and buy it. That's stupid because you might as well buy it. I mean, if you absolutely feel like you need to buy some, go get it, but wait till the price comes back down, or at least wait till it levels out, or do what we've been doing the last few months, kind of dollar cost averaging, figure out X amount of dollars you're going to spend each month on something like this, only if you can afford it, and keep doing it. So Real quick, this article came from Kitco, which is one of the main people or the main organizations that talk about precious metals, that sort of thing. It said gold prices are higher, silver slightly up in midday U.S. trading. Some safe haven demand is featured in the yellow metal as risk aversion has ticked up lately this last week following more military action in the Middle East. Absolutely. There it is. Geopolitical tensions in the Middle East ratcheted up another notch as Pakistan launched retaliatory airstrikes inside Iran, killing at least 9 people. So, not to, focus too long or too hard on the, international tensions, but again, precious metals, the market just follows. When shit gets hairy, when stuff goes sideways a little bit, people tend to look for, remember what we talked about last week, a safe haven investment. And traditionally, the most stable safe haven investments over the years are precious metals, namely gold and silver. Some people are getting into some other stuff, but again, while this stuff happens, then I'm not saying don't go out and invest in it right now, but when shit like this is happening around the world, it tends to drive the price up. So hold back, because you'll find places where you can buy the dip if you need to. Take a look at the comments here. Hardway Homestead, Alaska says, I mine gold, only costs my labor. Oh, that is awesome. Must be nice. There you go. No, that is awesome. I love hearing that. That would be actually pretty cool. I knew a lawyer back home in Nova Scotia where I was born, and he wore a ring, and he had panned for gold for many, many years. And every piece of gold he ever found was attached to that ring, these little nuggets. And there wasn't much there, but he spent many hours and many days doing it. I think it was pretty neat because my area in Nova Scotia was not known for gold. All right, let's slide into the next segment of the week, and that is Stranger Than Fiction. This has been one of the biggest, I guess, one of the things you guys have been the biggest fans of. And this is probably the segment that inspired This Week in Prepping. I've really enjoyed putting them together, and we are getting more views, more downloads, and more listens on This Week in Prepping than any other show we do, other than the occasional interview show. So I'm excited. Thank you guys for the support. So earlier on, you heard Jason say, I hope the frozen pipes didn't cause your hair to prematurely gray. Well, that's not an issue, but this is a cool article. It's no calling in sick or waiting for a nice day. The grid has to perform on the worst of them. I'm going to talk more a little later on about the power scare we had here in Alberta over the weekend. It was hairy. I mean, we were prepared for it. Absolutely, we were. But we had, there was a grid alert issued. There was the threat of rolling blackouts, whole bunch of things. So anyway, no calling in sick for the Alberta grid. Yeah, no shit. Things break at 36 degrees. This came from the BOE report, BOE report. Anyway, it's a newspaper or a news center that talks about oil and gas and that sort of thing. But it said things break at 36 degrees. The provincial grid operator issued an alert for people to immediately limit their electrical use to essential needs only. Well, I want to tell you something. In the middle of winter, and I'm sure Chris Dixon knows this too, but when it gets down to minus 46, everything's an essential need. Staying alive is an essential need at that point. And I could not imagine the absolute hubbub that would have happened if they'd have started instituting rolling blackouts or brownouts in Alberta that evening. It would have, even one death would have been the end of everything. It would have been awful, but I couldn't imagine. The threat was there. It was, I wouldn't say scary for us, exhilarating perhaps. Whenever you're kind of on the tip of something like that, it's not like you love the fact that it happens, but Becky and I started our planning. We started doing the conversation that we have, and it was cool. Like I said, we'll chat a little more about it, but it says here, everyone needs to understand the fundamental issue that was best described by Nassim Taleb. I like this one, via his turkey analogy. If you've never heard this turkey analogy, it's pretty good. It says a turkey has 364 days of a very, very good life, followed by one very bad day come Thanksgiving. It's the bad day that matters, not the 364 good ones. A deadly day is a deadly day. Interesting, hey? That's what it comes down to. The grid is there. It works great. Solar, wind works great when the wind's blowing, when it's warm, when you don't necessarily need it. And that night when the sun was obviously behind the horizon. It was beyond minus 30. That's when they shut the windmills down. They were not making a whole lot of power. Check this out. According to the provincial grid operator, Alberta has just about 4,500 megawatts of wind power capacity. At the peak of the last weekend's deep freeze, it was producing, are you ready for this? 1/3 of 1% of that total. And this point right here was probably the one that got me the most. Not just useless, but worse than that. Useless when needed exactly the most. Now, again, I don't hate solar. My good friend is Sean Mills of Hack My Homestead, and he's all about solar. I have solar hooked up on my garage. I love it. It works great. Wind has its place. It works great over in Nova Scotia, where I grew up. Works great here on the prairies when it's needed. But it is not something that we can 100% rely on, period. End of story. It just can't be. Look at this. I mean, it's easy for folks. I was just about to say it's easy for folks to say that who live in Texas, but they dealt with it too. In the extremes, on the far extremes, those the one day that's a really bad day for the turkey, that shit just doesn't fly. Literally. It sucks. So we just, here's one of the throwbacks that other people like to bring up. We just need more storage. Then wind and solar will be able to carry the load. Not possible. Not if batteries are the vision. Imagine a day's worth of battery power supply for the entire province, or 2 days. The cost would be off the charts. And then after 2 days of usage, how would the batteries get recharged if the cold spell persisted? You guys have seen me. I have defended electric vehicles in the past, and I don't hate them. I still say they have their place, and I 100% would still have a small electric vehicle. No, back up. I would have before we bought the daycare in Lloydminster, which now requires Becky to drive an hour each way. When all we were doing is putting around town with our second vehicle, I absolutely would have loved to have had one. But at this point, wouldn't work for us. Or this one. This is probably the scariest one. This is when I was sitting there that evening when the lights flicked just a little bit. And I said to Becky, the same kind of sentiment here. It says, we can switch to heat pumps. Oh boy. This one takes the cake. Heat pumps will exacerbate the problem at the exact worst time. When it's coldest, when the power demand's at its highest, and when the grid is maxed out. And that's where it comes from, folks. And it's not an either or scenario. It's just, we can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. We have to keep things like, actually in Alberta right now, we're looking at expanding into nuclear power. I don't have a problem with that. We need to have something. We certainly can't do away with natural gas because all of this other green energy just doesn't cut it. On Saturday night at 9 o'clock at night, when it's minus 46 outside and none of it's piping out, it's fine, if you live near the equator or something like that. But for us, this was a scary scenario. Anywhere in Alberta, it was scary. John Wright on LinkedIn, this is an interesting story. He said, currently at our cabin, trying to help out our heat pumps. We run 3 geothermal units. They're running full out with auxiliary supplemental heating coils engaged. For those who don't know, those are little kind of electrical heating elements that run inside the ductwork that will heat up, basically straight on electrical power, that are supposed to be able to supplement when heat pumps can't keep up. We have 2 propane fireplaces burning full time, in addition to all the firewood that we're also splitting and burning. And all the burners, oh my God, I didn't even catch that before, on the cooktop are on. It's probably 12 degrees Celsius in here. So that's, 45 Fahrenheit. Outside, it's minus 36, which is basically minus 36. Everyone seems to ignore the fact that the heat pumps are a huge draw on the power grid. Yep, that's where it comes down to. When it hit, like I said, minus 46 was the coldest it'd been since 1968. I'm not saying it's going to happen every year, but what does happen every year is a protracted spell of more than minus 30, just about every year, usually 5 to 10 days. And at that point, that's where it's life and death. That's where shit goes sideways really quick. That's where at 7 o'clock at night, when you're outside with the plumber and you have to open up an access hatch that opens right to the side of the house, you've got minutes, not hours, before the pipes freeze while they're sitting there. So it sucks. Chris Dixon, in the comments here said, I have a friend running geothermal and at 35 below, it flat out shut down and stopped working. That sucks. Simple as that. I'm not saying these aren't solutions because you guys have heard me in the past say some of these things work and they work really well. But I guess the big point I made to Becky that evening when we were sitting around talking, and I brought it up in the Telegram group the next morning, if even 10% of Albertans had switched in the last year or two to heat pumps, what the hell kind of scenario would we have been in that night? I wouldn't even want to know. It would be bad. You know, on the East Coast where mom and dad live, they pretty much have gone strictly to the heat pumps. Now, the problem is when the power goes out, you need to have backup power. But other than that, they tend to work out there because it never gets cold enough that they don't. Everybody just likes to forget about the prairies in the north where the shit just can't fly the way they want it to. So there you are. Red Moose Farm, great to see you this evening. Showed out, said hello to all you delinquents out there. And poor Rachel's all out of whiskey this evening. Sorry about that, Rachel. Here's a good article for you guys. This one's a little funnier, I think. Is that the right word? Odd, anyway. This is something that Art Bell would have probably liked. I don't know if anybody else has heard about it. And if you have, showed out in the comments there. But reports of cryptic notes pouring in from around PA. So Josh Sloan, he's been on the show before. PA Prepper, if you've heard this, I'd like to take your thoughts on it. But people have been finding mystery notes sealed inside the packaging of cereal and other foodstuffs. Now, I'm not exactly sure if they're inside the bag or if they're just sealed inside the box, but somehow people are getting access to it and leaving really weird, twisted notes. The I-Team first reported this. This article comes from PA homepage, the I-Team News, said the I-Team first reported concerns Tuesday over a note found in a box of cereal in Luzerne County. Since our first reports aired, the I-Team has received several emails and calls from viewers across NEPA, all telling similar stories about finding cryptic notes inside various packaged foods. We already knew that prepackaged foods weren't healthy for you, but this doesn't help matters a whole lot now, does it? So somebody somewhere who's a bit off their rocker is writing these conspiracy notes, sealing them up, and then putting them inside. This kind of reminds me of the Tylenol murders way back when. I just hope it doesn't get that bad. This guy here says, it just bothers me. The note, really. It's the note that bothers me. These notes are found inside of food, like kids' food, Joe Miller said. Joe Miller from Sugarloaf Township showed the I-Team on Tuesday what he found inside the box of a sealed Lucky Charms s'more cereal that he bought from a grocery store, again in Luzerne County. So you can't really see the article. They blurred a bunch of it out because it's just a bunch of crazy, nonsensy stuff. But so glad to see our report about strange notes. I found one several months ago and just last month in Lindt dark chocolate. They were purchased from different retailers. Tried to research, but came up with nothing. And then somebody sarcastically said, this ought to add a few more layers to all the secure packaging. Somebody else found some in chai tea. So they're finding these notes in chai tea, Lindt chocolate, Lucky Charms, all across the board. So I'm going to make a prediction, at least. It's not somebody working in the factories. I'm thinking they're going into the store, opening up the packaging and figuring out a way to reseal it and then putting the notes in there. This is definitely somebody who's slightly off their mental rocker, I'm going to guess. You'll see here. So these notes contain certain words like terror riots, JFK warned of SS in Lord of the Rings, as well as words connected to a bunch of conspiracy theories. Of course, Congressman Dan Mauser says he's looking for answers. We're definitely going to stay on top of this. If it's concerning to our constituents, which it clearly is, it's concerning to us. So, yeah, I forgot Rachel Brown's in PA. So there you go. I don't really know how much further to go with this other than it's odd. I like these stories. I don't know why they jump up and grab me, but I always I kind of enjoy sharing them with people. Hardway Homestead said, slave labor trying to escape. You're probably not wrong. But this reminds me of like serial killer letters, like some of the stuff that the Zodiac killer used to kick out, or just, that one kid that would sit in high school, junior high, with his head down in the cafeteria and everybody would ask him what's wrong and nobody would ever look at him. and he would just sit there and scribble in a notepad. Yeah, those kind of notes. There's something not right about this. It'll be interesting to see where the story comes from or where the story ends up, because I hadn't heard anything like this in a long time. All right. First announcement of the evening, folks. I decided to throw him up on the screen here, but my good buddy, Joel Riles of Fortress K9, he took a big chance on us 2 years ago and said, hey, I want to be your sponsor. What's it going to cost? And I give him an exorbitant, no, I'm just kidding. Give him a good deal. And he re-upped last year, and that makes me happy. So give him some support. We talked about it on Sunday night when Jordan was on. Her podcast was called Phoenix Rising. And Joel is definitely a Phoenix Rising as well. He came back around after basically losing everything that mattered to him in life other than his kids. But, he got a divorce, lost his business, went to jail for a little while, came back better than ever. And the dude is kicking ass, taking names, and he'll tell you just the way it is. So give him some support, guys. Follow him on all the podcast places and all the social media places. All right. So next. This one was good. Cookbook of the Collapse. I've been talking about this for a while, but a couple of reasons I'm doing this segment. And the main one is because it gives me, it's a good thought experiment on how we would use our preps. And of course, I've been going balls to the wall, freeze drying meat, which is going to give me a ton of 20, 25 year shelf stable protein, which I love. Now, this week, Mrs. Cook on the weekend actually decided to do some cooking, which was cool. I mean, she has been busy. She did not have to do it, but she made one of our favorites here in the house called hamburger soup. Yeah, I know, pretty simple, but it is scrumptious. So you just fry up hamburger, loosen the frying pan, put it into a big pot. You're going to add salt, pepper, beef base, lots of beef base. That tends to be what gives it a lot of its flavor. Now, the next is, depending on what you have on hand, but either tomatoes or ketchup. Us as a family tend to prefer ketchup. That gives it kind of that sweet but tangy tomatoey taste. Corn, potatoes, carrots, peas, and that's it. And you just simmer it. It's best cooked on a wood stove, but it's been many years since we've done any cooking in a wood cook stove. I do have a wood stove in my garage now. But yes, Rachel. So Rachel Brown just says, I need to give you my cornbread recipe. Yes, please do. Send it to me. So here's the thing, guys. The Cookbook of the Collapse is going to be an actual cookbook. Once we hit 100 recipes, I'm going to put them all together and we're going to have a Workshop Delinquent cookbook. Oh boy. And it's going to be nice. But so far, it's only been me putting the recipes out there, which I don't mind. But anybody who has recipes that really wants to share with the community, send them to me. therealtimcook@gmail.com. Not the fake one that runs Apple computers, but therealtimcook@gmail.com. So yeah, Rachel, send me your cornbread recipe. I'd love it. Garden Girl says one of her favorite soups. Yes, it is. Anything Becky makes is awesome, but man, I don't think I'd ever had hamburger soup before I met Becky. And she actually added a little cornstarch to it this time, but if you let it simmer for a while, you want it to almost be the consistency of a stew more than a soup. And my daughter's in here this evening. Love to see her. She says, but she makes the best wings. Yeah, I'll give you that. You do make pretty damn good wings. She learned from me, of course, but you know how it is. All right. Next segment, folks, is Workshop Wasteland. And we actually got quite a bit this week. So let me bring this up here. Workshop Wasteland is where we take a look at post-apocalyptic and dystopian fiction, movies, video games, TV shows, the whole works. Stuff that we all seem to enjoy. We all need an escape. And for me, my sick and twisted mind really likes to go into, prepper porn or this kind of stuff. And so let's dive in and I will share with you what I found this week. This one is cool. I'm going to mark this. I can't actually mark it on the screen. Cautiously optimistic. Now, if anybody out there knows me or Chris Dixon for that matter, we both have Audible addictions. We probably spend a small fortune on our Audible credits every year, but it certainly helps make the day go. Audible is putting out its own adaptation of 1984. This is from giantfreakingrobot.com, and it says 1984 adaptation gets unbelievable cast, including both Tom Hardy and our Andrew Garfield. Both great actors, I would say. Audible stepping up its audiobook game with the re-release of George Orwell's classic dystopian drama, 1984. The new audio-only drama has cast the voices of some of Hollywood's most elite stars, including Tom Hardy, Andrew Garfield, and a lady named Cynthia Erivo that I don't know who she is. The audio recording will be released. This is kind of cool. I like this. On April 4th, exactly 40 years after the book opens with Weinstein's first diary entry. So I like that. They are paying attention to the fans. They're doing it a service. They went, let's carry on. There's one thing here toward the end that I'm not super keen on, but if you don't know, there's Tom Hardy. I would say one of the best actors of our generation. Definitely. He played Bane in the Batman Dark Knight trilogy. He also was the main character in the last Mad Max movie. Great actor. Andrew Garfield, there he is there. He played Spider-Man for a couple of years. And I think he's a bit of an underrated actor. He's done a lot of off-the-wall kind of B movies, and he's got some critical acclaim for it. Audible's 1984 adaptation has received official authorization and endorsement from the Orwell estate, Richard Blair, George Orwell's son. Don't get too excited because the Amazon Lord of the Rings adaptation also got its blessing from the estate of our J.R.R. Tolkien. So just because you have the family's blessing does not make a good adaptation. Just because you give Stephen King a boatload of money and say, hey, we're going to adapt The Dark Tower, can you tweet about it and say how good it is, does not mean it's going to be good. So just so you know. Directed by BAFTA winner Destiny, known for her work on Ted Lasso and End of the Fucking World, and written by Joe White, the Audible adaptation. Here's where I get slightly nervous, folks. The Audible adaptation, you hear that word adaptation, remains faithful to Orwell's original text. The creators aim, and this is these two words here that aim to delve deeper into the horror of the dystopian setting of 1984, while exploring the profound love story between Winston and Julia in a world where such emotions are strictly forbidden. That right there, just okay. I'm gonna read it. I'm gonna listen to it. 100% I will. I'll give you an honest and open opinion on it when I'm done. I'll probably even do a video on my other channel that nobody knows about. And I will, I'll let you know. But I'm quite nervous when they attempt to do a modern reinterpretation of a story. Now, you could end up with the mid-90s Romeo and Juliet, which was great, or you could end up with last week's Mean Girls, which apparently was not. So anyway, I just, when you have these type of stories that are so divisive to begin with, and they're so politically split, I just can't see this coming out very well. We'll see. 100%. I'll let you know. All right, let's take a look. What do we got in the comments from the delinquents this evening? But we got BF said, I just made hamburger soup for dinner tonight. I love it. And Dixon says, I'd never read anything if it wasn't for Audible. I have came to the point in my life where I really struggle to read anything physical on paper. And I know that's bad. I probably should try to force myself to. But my old brain starts doing dances, and you hear that doo, 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 in my head because I just can't concentrate on the written word. But audio, man, I download that like nobody's business. So I don't get it. Haas says, I just signed up with Spotify that has Audibles on it. Interesting. I've heard a bit about that. I don't know if it was you, Haas, but somebody in the book club that we have another Telegram group there, said that they're limited on how many credits you could use, and there was no way to buy new ones. So I'm not sure. But anyway, so we got three pieces of news in the workshop wasteland this evening. First was 1984. The second one we'll just brush over. For anybody who plays video games, The Last of Us 2, you know how they like to remaster movies, make them better, remaster video games. Well, that's fine. Here's the deal, guys. It hasn't even been 4 years since The Last of Us 2 came out, and they already released a remaster on it. Now, to be fair, the creators are offering an upgrade for most people at $10. So that's not bad. If you already own it, for $10, I believe you can upgrade. But I don't know. I like I said, I don't have a whole lot of time for video games. I kind of wish I did, actually. And I'm not judging anybody who doesn't. The Last of Us, I love The Last of Us 1. I've yet to play The Last of Us 2. But the fact that they're putting out a remaster of it less than 4 years later, I don't know. Now, there is some lost levels that weren't in the first game or the first edition. They say they don't add a lot to the story, but they just add to the gameplay. So if you didn't know it, there's a remaster coming out if it hasn't been released yet. I guess the big thing that a lot of people ended up talking about was The Last of Us 2 came out right at the beginning of the pandemic. Right here, Last of Us 2. This is from Kotaku.com. Yeah, I'm so bad at that. The Last of Us Part 2 came out at the worst possible time in June 2020. The pandemic was steadily becoming more terrifying. New York was under a curfew and almost everything was closed or boarded up. The author here says, but for better or for worse, it can be hard to separate a game from the headspace in which you first played it. Like many people who love games, I often come to them for comfort and distraction. And I think that is what they're trying to do. I think the game, despite being a massive hit, ended up being in a rough situation because it maybe couldn't have been enjoyed like it should have been due to its subject matter and that kind of shit. So they're re-releasing it fairly shortly afterwards to maybe try to get another bump. And of course, why not? To play off of the recent success of the TV show, right? Absolutely. All right. And the third one is actually the one that I'm the most excited about. Again, color me cautiously optimistic, but here we go. You ready for this? Something that was only a funny rumor on Reddit for a long time. Here it is. Danny Boyle and Alex Garland teaming up for a sequel to their zombie hit 28 Days Later. Definitely my favorite zombie movie of all time, by far. One of my favorite horror movies of all time, and one of my favorite films of all time, 28 Days Later. They are going to make a sequel. They're shopping it around right now. I'll fill you in here in just a moment. But for those who don't know, Danny Boyle was the original director. I believe, I want to make sure I get that right. Yes, Danny Boyle directed Trainspotting, Slumdog Millionaire, and of course, 28 Days Later. And 28 Days Later is one of the first films that was filmed on digital. That's why it had such that grainy look. You're never going to get a Blu-ray upgrade per se because it was filmed on, was it Digital 8 or some kind of Sony digital? So it added to the graininess, but that's all that exists. Alex Garland, he's actually got that new film coming out called Civil War in April. He's made some really good films, one on AI and a couple other ones. But anyway, so they're teaming back up. They're writing, they're directing, they're producing. They're not just executive producing. So I'm excited slightly. So let's just fill you in quick. It said just over 2 decades after releasing the modern classic is getting a new sequel. Boyle and Garland, the director and writer of the O2 movie, are reuniting for 28 years later. But it gets better, folks. A new zombie thriller that is expected to hit studios, streamers, and other potential buyers later this week. Now, I read that and I thought, they made the movie already? No. What that means there is they have a premise, they have a script, or at least a treatment written, and they're going around shopping at the studio, seeing who will pay big bucks for it. And somebody will. But the best part, here it is. The package isn't just a simple modern sequel installment. The movie already had one in 2007. The duo were only involved as executive producers. However, this time, they're hoping to launch a new trilogy. All right. You can't go wrong with zombie films. I've never had, hard to go wrong with a Danny Boyle or an Alex Garland film. So cautiously optimistic. We're probably 2 years away from getting the first film, but they're going to shop it as a trilogy. Holy shit. I'm excited. Fanboy out. There you go. So that is Workshop Wasteland this week. I want to read, pop back over to the delinquents comments here. What do we got from the community? Chris Dixon says, I try to dedicate 30 minutes a day to a physical read. It's tough to do. My brain just won't let me, but not a bad thing at all. Maybe I should try to force myself a bit more. Jason Reed says, the only reading I get done is reading my 4-year-old, The Berenstain Bears. Not Berenstain. Yeah. Solid, timeless life lessons, of course. I love the Berenstain Bears. Read them to all of my kids when they were younger. And yeah, they do. They got great life lessons in there. One Step Closer says, Ellie Smash. If you haven't played or watched, anyway, I don't want to spoil it for The Last of Us. Let's leave it there. Haas says, I read a few times a year using a Fire tablet Kindle. I can highlight and take notes right in the app on the book. not bad. And Silver Streak 232. Great to see you in here. Love seeing. I know I'm pretty sure I've seen you in here before, but I like seeing names that I don't see all the time. It's great to have you. All right. Now, next, as you know, we have our roving reporter, Miss Willow, and she has become, for at least the foreseeable future, she's going to be putting together a segment called the Sunshine News. She has a channel called Sunshine Prepper. Make sure that you get over and give her a subscribe. But I kind of like this. This is like my own little personal expert counsel. Anyway, I love the fact that she kind of volunteered to do this. And I said, hey, if you want to come on, I'll give you, a 5 to 7 minute segment once a week and I'll play it. And here it is. She got it to me again this morning. So let's listen in on what Willow has to say today. Give me 1 second here, guys.
Hello, and welcome to today's Sunshine Prepper News. I'm Willow, the Sunshine Prepper, here to spread a bit of positivity on the unavoidable doom and gloom. Please join me for a big, deep breath and a nice long sigh before we get into today's topic. Okay, I need one more. All right, so this one's a bit of a doozy, but it weighs on my heart. So let's get it out in the open so that we can breathe about it together. And to those of you who already know about this, you're not 1 in a million, thank God, but you're probably closer to 1 in 50,000, maybe hopefully more like 1 in 10,000 of people that are aware of what is happening in their wallet. In short, the US dollar is losing its status as the world reserve currency. Say it ain't so, but no, regardless of how you feel about this one, it's definitely on the way, probably sooner than we'd hope, but not so fast that you don't have time to prepare. Since I'm sure you've noticed inflation, did you know that since the dollar's creation, it has lost 97% of its value? Today's dollar is worth 3 pennies compared to what it used to buy. Hooray, corruption. But what I really want to get into today is not the how and why our currency is failing, but on how the BRICS alliance is speeding us closer to this catastrophe. It won't be an SHTF scenario for everyone in the world, but for the G7 and definitely in the United States, it is going to be an SHTF for you and me. Just like how you are the most impacted by losing your job, Americans are going to be the ones most impacted by our currency losing status of world reserve currency. BRICS, 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 which is now BRICS Plus. This economic alliance has also been called the BRICS Bloc or the Southern Bloc, but is about to be called the Majority Bloc as it now makes up 30% of landmass, about 45% of global population, and no less than 32% of the world's GDP, compared to 30% held by the G7 countries. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. And the plus as of January 1st this year is for Egypt, Ethiopia, Iran, and the United Arab Emirates. Saudi Arabia has been invited, but not yet officially joined, as per the representative attending Davos right now. And BRICS is still growing. There's already 15 countries that have formally applied for membership, including Nigeria, Algeria, Bolivia, Pakistan, and more. And there's 17 other countries that have expressed interest in joining the alliance. Okay. So it's an economic alliance, it's big and it's getting bigger, but what should really concern you is their dedication and conviction to de-dollarization. They want to stop settling trade in dollars. They are adamant on ditching our currency, and I honestly don't blame them. The United States is sitting in $34 trillion of debt, much of which was effectively printed out of thin air. And the only thing slowing all these dollars down from coming home to roost is that a lot of trade still relies on being settled in dollars. The days of artificial demand for dollars that was created by other countries having to use them to buy oil are quickly coming to an end. And now many of the largest producers of crude oil, aka energy, are pretty excited to start selling that oil in anything other than dollars. When that happens, the horrible inflation we've experienced the last 4 years is going to be laughable in comparison. It's really going to be a mess. But did you know that on top of that, BRICS has created the new development bank as an alternative to the World Bank and the International Monetary Fund. And their alternative to the SWIFT system known as BRICS Pay is already facilitating transactions in local currencies instead of in dollars. If that doesn't need a deep breath and a sigh, I don't know what does. So, how can we make the most of this crappy patty? Well, the first silver lining is that you still have time to diversify from just dollars to protect your purchasing power. Beans and rice are pretty nice. A silver dime seems mighty fine. Buying gold is really bold. But for real, holding the things of value that your dollars are otherwise just a claim on will put you in a better position. Food will always be your friend. Non-perishable consumables are also always good to keep around. Things like aluminum foil, soap, trash bags, and don't forget to get some high-quality tools, wink, wink. Past that, I always recommend you own some silver. Don't sell everything that you have to buy it, but only 15% of Americans own some. And it's an easy way to be a little bit ahead of this game of currency failureopoly. And then, if you have a few more coins than the average bear, you can start to position yourself to come out ahead on the other side with real estate. We're going to need high integrity, good people with good morals and purchasing power to buy up the land so that the overlord class doesn't take it all when everything fails. So, now that you know that winter is coming to wallets near you, be intentional with the time that you have to prepare and go take some action. Wishing you and your family the best as we charge into a challenging future. By doing today that which you can for your family's future wellness, I know we'll get through it. I'll see you next week. Sunshine Prepper out.
Well, I got to say, guys, for Willow doing this only on her second go around, she did really, really good with this. I'm actually quite impressed. She's kicking butt and taking names. So make sure you give her a follow. But I really appreciate getting to sit back and watch my own show for 5 or 6 minutes every Thursday night. It's actually quite neat. But beyond that, I like that she's a very intelligent lady who takes deep dives into some of these rather boring conversations or rather boring topics that could mean significant things to us down the road. And she comes at it from a solutions-based premise. And I like that a lot. So, 6 minutes on the brick system, who would have thought? And to come out the other side and have a smile on your face. She's great at that. So here's something else, guys. I'm not saying that I'm going to open it up to other people, but what I am saying is that if anybody has an idea for an ongoing segment that you think would fit into This Week in Prepping, let me know. I'm definitely open to the idea. Not saying we're going to yet, but I'm definitely open to proposition. So there you go. All right, next, what do we have for you? We have the Side Hustle Spotlight. This is one of my favorite because, as you guys know, this is where we started. And I got questions earlier tonight. Tim, why is there bacon on your thumbnail? Well, let me tell you, I'm going to talk to you about it just this evening. All right. Owner of Sunrise Diner in Ocean City creates soap out of leftover grease. Now, we're not talking like Fight Club or anything like that, but this isn't necessarily, this is a side hustle you could do. This is just somebody looking at their existing business, looking at a product that typically went away, whether it went in the garbage or somebody came along and got it to recycle it themselves. The owner of the business said, I got an idea. Let's turn bacon grease into bucks. So this was WMAR2news.com, and this was in Ocean City, Maryland, at Sunrise Diner in Ocean City. Owner Sam is serving up more than pancakes, eggs, and French toast. Last year, he started making bars of soap using leftover grease from his restaurant. He said he wanted to find an alternative source of revenue as inflation and rising costs were eating into his business. Exactly. Again, looks at a problem, comes up with a solution. I like it. Using a recipe, and this is probably my favorite part, a recipe from his great-grandmother, Sam filters the lard several times before adding in scents and letting the mixture set. He then cuts it into bars and sells them on his website, Bumble Soap. Watch the video above to see his interview on Good Morning Maryland about his soap making business and the benefits of bathing with lard soap. I loved it. I thought it was what a cute little feel-good story. Alice and Charlotte, the year we were homeschooling there when COVID really kicked off, we made a whole batch of bacon fat or lard soap as well. And it turned out great. We definitely needed to add more essential oils than we had planned. But other than that, it was great. But the reason I shared this story this evening, and I was just on Thriving the Future podcast the other night and loved being interviewed. That show should be out in the next few days on his YouTube channel. However, what ends up happening invariably whenever I get asked on a podcast and get asked to share my thoughts on just about anything, at some point, we eventually go down the rabbit hole of entrepreneurship, because in my mind, there is no better way for self-reliance and independence. And this right here, this is what I love. He looks at that and he's like, well, shit, I got all this grease. It's going wherever. Let's turn it into a way to make money. And it's his money, his business. He gets to decide what gets better, what gets worse, and what he doesn't do something with. How much better is that than working for the man or some other Yahoo, right? Anyway, want to welcome the B-Man Jay in here. Speaking of, turning things into other things, he is an expert at lots of different side hustles, including many different bee-related products. But it's great to see you in here, brother. All right, so that was the Side Hustle Spotlight. And I wanted to show you guys something this evening. So my next announcement for this evening is something I just officially launched today. And that is the Patreon. So some people said, we're not into patches, or we are into patches, whatever, but we want a different way to support the workshop and the crazy shit that you do. I know, crazy shit, whatever. Why do people say that about me? But anyway, so I launched a Patreon, but not just, hey, give me $5 and I'll be happy. A place where you can get some pretty cool exclusive content. So I wasn't going to launch it until I made sure I had this month's content up there. So I wanted to show you what's up. So we did. Chris Dixon said, "Yeah, you finally did it. Great job. Thank you, brother." So what is up there right now? Every month, you're going to get an exclusive in-person interview with one of the big names in the preparedness field. This month, it just happens to be Joel Salatin. So there's a 23-minute interview with him. There is also, let me go a little further down here, a commentary on that, just simply because I'm weird and I like that kind of stuff. I always like the old DVD commentaries. So I recorded over top the interview my thoughts of the event we went to, where we were at that time, how things came together, all of that. So I hope you like that as well. I actually haven't made this live anywhere except just on social today, but I have 5 members signed up before even today. So it was great. We're also posting, I'm going to put all of my YouTube videos going forward up here, ad-free. So if you're getting tired of watching YouTube ads, you can watch my MRE video here. You can watch my latest cold weather generator starting, ad-free. And here's the other exclusive series that Alice and I just filmed yesterday called Outside the Box. And if you're wondering what the hell it is, well, it's kind of fun. But we go to different grocery stores or different places that we wouldn't normally go. And we pick up, proteins, fats, whatever we can find that might just be a good prep, something you'd never thought of before. And then we put them all in a bag, and Alice pulled 3 of them out this time. And we tried sweetened red beans, roasted spiced eel, and maple flavored Spam. So if you want to see which one made me gag and which one I really enjoyed, you can check it out over there. So anyway, enough of the self-promotion for this evening, but that is the Patreon. So if you're looking to sign up, links pinned here, or it's patreon.com/Toolman Tim's Workshop. All right. One of my favorite names, or one of my favorite segments to read the title of, is I Read It on the Internet. It's just so damn perfect. I can't take credit for it. Brian Alexovich came up with it, but it's great. And I've told you before, but if you're not on Reddit, that's okay. They're their own weird community over there, folks. But there is quite the treasure trove of information. The prepping group is really good. They definitely skew toward practical prepping, which is my type of people, but almost to the point where they look down their nose at anybody who might think anything weird's going on in the world. It's kind of an odd group, but if you can overlook that kind of stuff, there's some really cool things in there. So I picked my top story. It actually ended up being 2 this week on Our Preppers. And this one is a real life emergency. Always want to give credit where credit's due. And this is from a user called Disastrous Aspect. I like that name. It's pretty cool. Real life emergency. First off, I'm well aware of the irony in this post. He doesn't actually touch on the irony in this, but there's an update after. Last night, I was on my way to a meeting, crossing rural roads in near 0 Fahrenheit weather. I found a car on its side in the ditch. I stopped. I grabbed one of the flashlights I keep in my car, looked around, and I didn't see anyone. I didn't see any blood, just footprints in the snow to the road. I put all the stuff away, and I went on my way. Maybe a mile or two down the road, I noticed a dark shape in the side of the road. I stopped. I backed up to see what it was because of the car in the ditch. Of course, put my headlights on, and boom, it was a man. He was passed out drunk. Ooh, got him in my car, out of his wet clothes, a blanket around him, some bandages on him, all from my kit in my car. I got him to the hospital. He has a chance to live because I took my first aid class at work. I had basic supplies ready to go in my car. This is just a note to be prepared for things that are less than the end of the world. And I like these stories. I like hearing these stories. I like getting stories like this in my email. But this is pretty cool. This is one of those where, guess what? My everyday, stupid, simple little preps paid off. And this dude ended up saving somebody's life. So he actually gives an update. I guess it was, 3 days later. Real life emergency update. A few days ago, while I had the opportunity to help someone, I found him drunk alongside the road, wet in sub-0 degrees Fahrenheit weather. Jeff, we will call him, lost a leg and his ears to frostbite. He was in no way, this is the weird part, no way linked to the car that I saw in the ditch, but he's still in the hospital. He's in stable condition. He says he knew me growing up and remembers part of our ride. Jeff had been out ice fishing when he got drunk. He fell through the ice, and then his ride showed up. His ride left after he didn't show up. Jeff was walking toward a farmhouse that was probably 10 miles away from the lake. The driver in the car in the ditch has been charged with a DUI, amongst other things. Also, the irony of the story was I was on my way to an AA meeting. Today was day 1001, and I'm absolutely loving life. I forgot I had this story on here, guys. And I want to let you know that I'm out there to encourage each and every one of you. And I had someone reach out to me today about something similar to this. And just let you know that I'm always there for anybody that I can help. Okay. Simple as that. That's all I'm going to say about that. But this person here, on top of prepping and looking after themselves, day 1001, that's nothing to shake a friggin' stick at. And if anybody's out there suffering from any of that kind of stuff, you can do it too. You know, if my old fat ass can go out and run 20 minutes yesterday nonstop without, basically 3 kilometers, then, I guess hell did freeze over. But it works. Let's get her done. But I liked hearing this story. This was really neat. Everyday practical preps that paid off, that saved a guy's life, even though he lost his ears and his leg. Kind of sounds like my poor cat Maui. But anyway, good for him. And Chris Dixon says the folks on Reddit are gatekeepers for sure. They absolutely are. You need to say your words in the right way. You need to hold your tongue the right way. So it's not really worth promoting. You can't really promote anything, on Reddit, but it is a great place to learn. All right. So next is This Week in the Workshop. And I've got some good ones for you here. Excuse me, folks. I don't know what happened there, but anyway, I'm back. All right, This Week in the Workshop. And that is where I update you on the goings on in our business, the goings on in our preps, at least what I share, and hopefully motivate you guys to do some stuff too. And hopefully be honest about my failings, and you guys can give me a verbal kick to the ass when I need them. But the first thing this week, of course, was the power issue in Alberta. The cold. That's all anybody talked about. And as soon as it warmed up here, the wind picked up. So it kind of offset any of the negating factors of the warmth. It was a mess. We survived. We saw the craziest temperatures in half a century. I believe it was 7 calls altogether. I had 2 busted pipes, 2 frozen pipes, a furnace that wasn't working. 2 furnaces now. I forgot about that one. And I know there was another one in there, but I can't remember what it was. Anyway, so there you go. I survived. We all survived. I don't know anybody who was harmed or maimed or anything in this cold, but it sucked donkey balls. Let's move on. Now, I want to tell you something, guys, but coming right up before next Thursday. So before next Thursday's This Week in Prepping, I'm celebrating 2 pretty cool anniversaries, and I am quite excited about both of them. I am a big fan. You guys know I love to talk about milestones and anniversaries, and it's great to look back on where you've been, where you've come from, and share your story a bit. So I want to show you this one first. Let me bring this up while I got you on here. And this is, so I don't know if you guys see this. This is my very first All Seasons Maintenance logo. And if you look back here, this is Living Free in Tennessee's website, Nicole's. This was episode 259, Start Your Handyman Business with Tim Cook. Today is Friday, so we have an interview show with Tim Cook, all about how to start your handyman business with what you have, rather than waiting until you can afford the next great tool. So here's the date. It's really tiny to see. That fine print says January 24th, 2020. That day is the day that I officially launched this YouTube channel. So on January 24th this year, it'll be 4 years since I put up my very first 2 videos in the Growing Your Handyman or Becoming a Handyman with Little or No Money business series that eventually morphed into whatever this monstrosity is today. So January 24th. Now, for those who haven't heard this story before, I was actually originally supposed to go on the show in November. I had no plans of launching any content at the time. And the night before I was supposed to go on Nicole's podcast, I sent her an email, some bullshit. I don't know. I'm not feeling good. Somebody's not feeling good. Really, I just pussied out. I got cold feet and decided I wasn't going to go on the podcast. Like, really? You, Tim, the dude who gets up at Self-Reliance Festival, makes a fool of himself? Yeah. So I chickened out. I didn't go on. And about a month later, she reached back out to me. She's like, all right, you're coming on. And so I did. And the rest, as they say, is history. So 4 years ago on January 24th, this incredible community that didn't exist was launched. I spoke it into existence. I continued to talk about all these crazy friggin' delinquents who weren't out there yet. And here we are 4 years later on a less than stellar Thursday evening, chatting about the happenings in the prepper world. So there's that. Now, in my mind, a much more significant anniversary is tomorrow. And this is crazy how fast this came, guys. And for any of those out there who are young and they're like, my God, I've got all these years ahead of me. Sure you do. But here's the thing. A decade can fly by in an instant. This morning, I had a memory on Facebook. It was a piece of paper, a bowling scorecard. And I always remember Charlotte. She was 3.5 at the time. She rolled a spare in candlepin bowling. And if you don't know what candlepin is, look it up or I'll tell you about it another time. However, that evening, we went home, went to bed. And the very next morning, January 19th, Becky and I got up at 3 o'clock in the morning, drove in a snowstorm to Halifax. I hopped on a plane and I flew to Alberta. I left my family behind for about 5 months. I had no money in my wallet and I had to borrow half of the plane fare to get out there. However, 10 years later, you guys know the rest of the story. Sometimes you got to burn bridges. Sometimes you got to fly 5,000 kilometers across the country and shit still goes sideways on you. So it doesn't mean it's going to be all, sunshine and roses. But tomorrow is the 10-year anniversary of that day. Holy shit, am I ever glad we did it. Were we ever scared shitless for quite a few years afterwards? Yes, we were. But here we are. So if you're ever wondering, is it worth taking big chances? It sure is, because you don't want to sit back and still be thinking 10 years later, if it had just got on that plane, maybe. Don't live in regrets. Just do it. There you go. All right, we had a great episode last week, the Atlas Shrugged Book Club. If you're not part of that, the Post-Apocalyptic Book Club, we're reading 3 chapters a month. We're discussing them. It was a great episode. The episodes actually got quite a bit of traction on YouTube for some reason. I'm not exactly sure why, but I love doing it. So if you want to get part of it, you can join the Telegram group, the Post-Apocalyptic Book Club on Telegram. But more importantly, we want to have people live on the show or live in the comments discussing it, but it's fun. I did a video this week on cold starting your generator. I edited the hell out of it and it came in at under 4 minutes. So I don't know what was wrong with me. I made the promise at the beginning it'd be under 5 and it was under 4. It was a good video. It's trending okay, but if you haven't seen it yet, do me a favor and check it out. Real quick too, the one thing that you can do that costs you nothing to support the workshop is share this show or share something. Anything that you see that you like on the workshop, do me a favor and just share it across social. That's all. And I would appreciate it 110%. I spent 3 days, 2 nights up in Lloyd working on the new daycare. Actually, it was quite fun. The missus and I would go up, we'd work all day, and then we'd just veg around, order out food, and watch TV in the hotel room and just do work on the computer. It was actually a really nice mini vacation. But I spent the whole day doing a punch list at Busy Bees South, is what we're calling it. That was a lot of fun. I hung a toilet paper roll, hung a shelf, another shelf for a heater, insulated the door, blah, blah, blah. Just fun stuff. My kind of day. Spend the whole day fixing things that are broke. That's what I like. I don't know why. I'm weird. Got a huge haul of meat from the superstore. Becky and I went up early in the morning when we were in Lloyd, and I got a bunch of beef pork ground mix. Got some pork ground. I got some pork chops and a whole bunch of stir-fried beef. And if you're ever wondering, the halal or the Jewish kosher, those type of things, if you're looking for meat, quite often that's the stuff that ends up going on clearance. So keep an eye out for it. But I bought a shit ton. It's all been cooked. It's all in the freezer, pre-freezing for the freeze dryer, because I officially ran out of prepped food today. So I've got 24 hours of the freeze dryer just sitting there not doing anything. That's okay. I freeze dried, freeze droved. I don't know what's the proper term now. Anyway, frozen veggies this week, ham and pork chops. We even reconstituted a pork chop. We took one of the Mylar bags, put hot water in it, put the pork chop in it, and I would say 3 minutes, and it was as good as a pork chop that's been heated up in the microwave. Like, it was tender and unbelievable. Trying to practice reconstituting them, cooking with them. And of course, the dogs love the dry treats, almost to their own detriment. I got to tell you that. How about this? This one's funny. I had a brain fart an epiphany this week. And I realized, and this is going to blow everybody's mind out there. Did you know that your workshop, your garage, is for parking vehicles in? Mind equals blown. I know. I had no idea. But I was pulling in that night and I'm like, shit, I got to plug my vehicle in again. I don't want to have to fight with the cold. And I was like, you do have a workshop you could pull into. Here's the thing. I put those nice new workbenches in there. Never thought to measure. Never even once thought to measure whether my vehicle would go in there. I know, crazy. Chris Dixon calls bullshit on this, and it's true. Never thought. So I nose all the way up until I feel myself just touch the workbench. Put it into park. I go back to see if I can shut my garage door, and I realize my trailer hitch is sticking out. So I detach my trailer hitch, and I have about 2 inches to spare. But I want to tell you guys, anyway, it was unreal being able to keep my truck in there for those cold days. That saved my ass so many times, having to run out quick and not having to wait for that truck to warm up or sit. Oh, anyway, absolutely great. I hacked, is that the right word? A TV at the hotel. So I'm thinking about doing this weird series on hotel hacks. There's 3 that I found so far that do work in some hotels. The first one was when you go in and the air conditioner won't go cold enough because they have it locked out. There's codes that you can do, things that you can push or buttons to override the hotel codes. I like that. Number 2, there are codes in certain types of elevators that you push in or you hold the buttons down, and you will go from the floor you're on to the floor you want to go without stopping at any other floors. Imagine that. Well, this one was an LG TV. We wanted to hook up a Fire Stick to it, and it had no exterior buttons. It had one of those clean remotes that wouldn't allow you to access any of the inputs. Nothing worked. So it turned out that I watched about 12 different videos. I found a tear apart kind of manual, one where somebody would service, like a service book or whatever. And in there, it gave me a 4 or 5 digit code type in that would manually put me on each input level. So after my 3rd try, I was able to access it. Sometimes I just have to go after a challenge. Becky laughs. She loves it. And then, of course, I was a guest on the Thriving the Future podcast. So much fun. If you haven't listened, give him a listen. I can't remember how many subscribers he's got. He's just, he's got 100 episodes in, but he's doing really, really good. So give him some support, guys. When the episode comes out, I'll share it across, but it was just an awesome, awesome conversation. I loved it. Loved it. All right. Next, what do we have? This one right here. You know what's funny? The last 2 weeks, just before I go live, there's breaking news that I want to share. Now, this, of course, maybe doesn't exactly fall under the breaking news category, but when you see it, you'll understand why I brought this up. This is the preparedness news section. I'm going to do a preparedness kind of segment when I have a chance, when there's something that is out there that I can share with you. But this was too big not to share. Look at all that glorious yellow and black. For those on the audio, you can't look at it. DeWalt today didn't release, but announced the impending release of a new battery platform, or a new tool platform called PowerShift. This is to compete with those big, boxy, beefy batteries from Milwaukee. Have a great night, Martinson. Always love seeing you in here. So these, if you can see them, are massive batteries. They are construction grade products. So we've got a concrete skimmer. We have a vibrator, a really big vibrator. Tim, that's weird. We have a mini tamper. We have a plate tamper, all kinds of crazy stuff, all battery powered, all with these high end, I think they're 554 watt hour batteries. I saw right there. DeWalt PowerShift 554 watt hour batteries, and a high speed charger comes with it. It's pretty exciting, actually. I like it. Also, in a pinch, these are all going to be able to take the FlexVolt batteries as well. So kind of backwards compatible or something along those lines, so you're not completely losing them. But we've got a plate compactor, a rammer, a backpack vibrator, a PowerShift power pack. I'm not exactly sure what that is. Power screed, and a core drill and a stand. I'm excited. It's been a while since DeWalt has come out with something this new. So no backup. That's a great question. One Step Closer says, backup power options? Not yet. I want to guarantee you there will be. Got to come up with something. They are pretty, this is exciting because, these are massive. 554 watt hours is on the equivalent of one of those, kind of 500 watt battery banks. And the weight of them are they're light. Look at this. 554 watt hours, 11.5 pounds for the battery and the charger. Not bad at all. BFKC in the audience here says MX fuel battery competitor for commercial applications, likely due to California's new small engine ban. No doubt whatsoever. So it says here, there it is. Pros are ready for electrification. Electric outperforms gas. 68% of construction employees who switched to electric powered tools said they've allowed them to complete projects up to 2 to 3 times faster. I don't disagree. I've used electric battery powered for a long time and loved them. So Rachel just says Tim wants a backpack vibrator. Well, if it has a 554 watt hour battery, you're damn straight I want a backpack vibrator. Holy crap. Look at the battery right there, guys. That's the guy holding it. So I'm excited. I'm glad that DeWalt's coming out with this. And what I'm really hoping is this is just the tip of an iceberg, and where they expand this battery stuff into zero turn mowers, into snow blowers, into backpack blowers, because I do like yellow and black, but they are definitely lacking in some of the higher end landscaping gear that a lot of the other companies have. Anyway, loved it. I was glad I was able to kind of break this news to people tonight, because I'm excited to see where it ends up. Absolutely. All right, next. Hang on here 1 second. So this is maybe one of my other favorite named segments, but this is the community nail bag. And yes, you're like, Tim, did you say nail or mail? No, I said nail. And I am pretty excited. Yeah, I got some incredible feedback from the community this week, and I cannot, I got to share it with you. So here it is. We got four cool. So if you've got anything you want to share with the community, or something that you're like, you know what, this will just make Tim smile, send it to me. There's a form on the website. You can send it. So this week I got something on the form from the website. I got something via email. I got something from a YouTube comment and somebody over on Instagram. So here it is. This one made me smile. I got this one this week. It's from Dan, and it says, greetings. I just recently found your YouTube channel. Great stuff there. I've been preparing for a harsh winter in Texas the past few months. I'm happy to say when the cold front moved in today, I had 2 freezers full of meat, a full refrigerator, my generator, and propane, and drinking water to last at least a week. Not quite where I want to be on everything, but this is the most prepared I have been. I definitely took your advice of 2 is 1, 1 is none, and 3 is better for my propane tanks. I got 3 100-pound tanks full of propane to power my generator. I wish I would have found your channel before I bought my generator, as I might have done things a bit differently. I did not realize I could chain generators together, so I bought the Duramax 13000X. I'm in the process of getting the transfer switch installed, and hopefully we'll have that up in the next day or 2. Thank you for your advice, your great product reviews. Just wanted to drop a line with a bit of success story that can hopefully help others out there. Don't you love hearing that? That just makes me smile. I want this to be, even though we talk about some news and different things. Thank you, Chris Dixon. Appreciate that. He just threw up a $10 super chat. Always love it. Have a great night, brother. So there's the first one. That one made me smile. I love hearing people prepared. I love hearing that I was lucky enough to play just this little part in it. But again, it's all what the person does. It's all what we do as an individual, not what anybody else tells us to do, right? Here's the next one. This one came from Modern Frontier, Adam, as he's known, over on Instagram and TikTok. He's been on the show before a couple of times as a butcher, and he sells grass-fed beef. He said, here's a different reason to prep. He said, I've been working hard at my business for about 2 years now. And one of the reasons I could afford to do it was all of my short-term and mid-term preps. I was able to consume them and save money at times by eating some of my preps. Prepping isn't just for when things go bad, but also to allow you to do good when opportunities arise. I love that, guys. I hadn't really, you think about it, but you don't think about it. Does that make sense? Anyway, that one made me smile. It too many good things this week. So here's the next one, guys. This is a good one too. I got to figure out a way to show you these comments. But anyway, this one, if you guys remember back to last week, and we read that article from the UK where they basically said prepping was for rich people and how we kind of shit on a little bit because it's true. Well, this dude right here, and if you're listening tonight, thank you for listening and chiming in because I really do appreciate it. Their username on YouTube is Disabled and Prepping. This is what they said. And I asked to make sure that I could share this. Said, I am on disability and I do my best to get prepared. I do have to save up for things, but it can be done. Slow and steady works. I can't say any more than that. I was hoping last week that I wasn't too hard on folks. And, it's that whole must be nice attitude. But like I said, Becky and I spent many years broke as a joke, and prepping is what got us through. So thank you, Disabled and Prepping. Thank you for taking the time to message me. Actually, we got 2 more here. This one was on George Siegel's episode we did a little while back. He's doing the new documentary. This is cool. Anyway, let me read it. You guys can draw your own conclusions. This came from Goonies Never Say Die. Looking forward to George's next film. Along those lines, it's worth noting that home fires kill more Americans every year than all natural disasters combined. I did not know that. I learned something new. And yet most homes are not equipped with home fire sprinklers. Also true. Despite a proven track record for saving lives and property, safety and engineering experts added a mandate for home fire sprinklers to the residential code through a consensus process decades ago, but the mandate has been removed at the state level in all but 2 states and the District of Columbia. About half the remaining states are prohibited from adding it back in at the local level. This is a direct result of lobbying by the NAHB, who baselessly claims that sprinklers are too expensive. Adding sprinklers to a new build is generally less than 1% of the total cost, and the permanent insurance incentives and peace of mind substantially offset the cost. Would love for George to include this point in his work. Now, I agree with about 90% of that, and I'm good. I did not realize that house fires kill more people than all natural disasters in the U.S. That's good to know. I also agree that I think home sprinklers would be a great idea. But where I disagree, and that's okay, we don't have to agree, is through legislation forcing the hand. And I get it. You got big business and government and all this. They make odd bedfellows. I get it. However, if it is only 1% of the total cost and the permanent insurance incentives and peace of mind substantially offset the cost, maybe the insurance company should be doing a better job advertising the fact that you would save a bunch of money, because I didn't even know that was an option in homes. So there you go. Again, you know where I stand. Government interference and this kind of thing. I can't let it be. But I totally get the sentiment. I'm totally fine with the idea. And it's definitely something I think George would be interested in knowing about. I'm going to send this along to him. If I'm sure Goonies already has, but I'll send it along as well. All right, final one. And I got this one just before about 2 days ago. And this one really made my day. This is from Miles, and he sent it to me on Telegram. He said, "Hey, Tim, hope you're doing well. I know you're a busy guy, so I'll try to keep this brief. I listened yesterday to your expert counsel segment on a recent episode of the Survival Podcast. You're talking about handyman quoting and pricing. I've been trying to establish a handyman business myself since I reached out to you a few years ago now. And I 100% remember that too. It's kind of cool. It has been a few years. I've had a feeling for a while that I've been undercharging, and your talk confirmed that for me when I was listening yesterday. The biggest challenge for me has been pricing. You said you wouldn't charge less than $50 an hour minimum as a standard hourly rate. Do you think that would be true here in rural New Brunswick? I figured you being a former handyman and a New Brunswick resident, I spent 4 years there in university, I figured you'd have some valuable insight. I also wanted to give you a big thank you for inspiring me to take on this endeavor and leave my 9 to 5, which was eating away at my soul. I don't know where I would be today without you. Never met Miles in person, but holy shit, does that ever touch me. I can't express my appreciation enough. I'm not as active in the community as I would like to be, but hopefully I can make more time for that in the future. All the best to you and your family for 2024, from Miles." Now, first off, I don't ever want anybody to ever apologize for not spending time on the internet when you're out there busy building the life you want to live. So get out there, kick ass, take names, build your empire, and friggin' run with it, brother. I love hearing it. Thank you so much. Cannot wait to hear all of your success in 2024. So guys, send me those type of stories. I love hearing them from you. I love hearing all of that. So I hope you guys appreciate me sharing some of this back with you. We got 2 more segments for you, and then we're going to close up. The first one, this was new. I decided to call, this one's going to be called The History of the Prepared. Now, where did this come from? This was me sitting around. Again, this is where my mind goes. When Becky and I were sitting chatting about all the coldness and how bad it would have been. And I thought, how in the hell did the pioneers back 100 years ago in sod houses, who barely even had rail tracks running through, how did they keep their homes warm? And I guess it's a little more than 100 years ago now. But so I looked it up, and I found this article on HH History. So Heroes and Heroines of History.com. And it was from 2018. And it said 4 ways that pioneers stayed warm in the cold weather. I like looking back at history because most times you'll find an analog solution for problems in a digital world. You'll get to see some things that you're like, wow, I never thought about that. So first off, we actually had a fellow Canadian who did something similar to this in the Telegram group just to show. But the first one was heavy bedding and thick curtains. So think back to the old Christmas Carol with Scrooge, and he's laying in bed and he's got a nightcap on, and he's wearing long pajamas, and he's got 17 layers of bedding on him. And then he's got all those curtains around. All of that acts as insulation. Again, there's not much more you could do, but I liked it. It said down comforters allowed families to sleep in comfort with their body heat held to their covers. Beds were piled high with quilts and comforters. Children often slept several to a bed. Heavy night clothing gave them an additional layer of insulation, and most slept with stocking caps to keep them from losing heat through the top of their head. Now, this one here, bed warmers. I actually thought this was some sort of chamber pot. Covered copper or brass pan with a long handle served as a bed warmer. Holes would be punched in the lid, creating a design, and the pan was filled with heated rocks. The warmer was slid between bedding layers using the long handle before the family retired, thus warming the bed quite effectively. I like that. Not bad. This one's foot warmers. A foot warmer was similar to a bed warmer, but also different. They usually consisted of a wood-framed tin box with a wire handle on it. Heated rocks were put inside. This was placed by the feet under a blanket and left there until the rocks cooled. As a kid, people used hot water bottles a lot. We used heating pads, electric blankets, whatever you had on hand. And then this final one was kind of cool. It was soapstones. An alternative to bed and foot warmers was a soapstone. Soapstones would be placed in the fire to heat and used directly in the bed or the wagon. They were usually wrapped in rags to prevent burns from the hot stones. Due to their mass, soapstones were often more effective than a foot warmer. The more massive the stone, the more the heat held. So I thought that was cool. I like looking back at the pioneer days and seeing exactly what they did to keep themselves warm, because in case we ever had to deal with an absolute, shit hits the fan, worst case scenario, it's always great to have ideas beforehand. One Step Closer says, my foot warmer has 4 legs and a tail. Yes, you're correct. Apparently. So I know people say, Chihuahuas have no good whatsoever. Well, they're a very astute alarm. They work wonders as an alarm, but apparently they were also bred as being, living, breathing hot water bottles. That's how they were treated in the past. And that's exactly what they're good at, is heating you out of the bed and just giving that sigh and pushing you off the bed, Anyway. All right. Final segment of the evening. And this is the Content Creator Spotlight. This is one I actually had in the notes last week and I forgot to share with you. Has anyone out there heard about the TikTok tunnel lady? If you have not, and you want to go down a metaphorical tunnel, rabbit hole, whatever you want to call it, check this lady out. Her channel is called engineer.everything. She recently got herself into some trouble with her local government. She's been doing this for 2 years. She's been digging a tunnel / bomb shelter / bunker, whatever you want to call it, under her residential home in her town. And she knew nothing when she started. She's a very intelligent lady, if not a little eccentric or something. But you will see here, she talks about running the electrical. She talks about running sump pumps to keep the water out of there, running air exchange systems, all the stuff she's never done in her life before. So if you're interested, check her out. Her link's in the description. I like finding these oddball folks. And yeah, so she's got, like I said, like learning how to do concrete, all these things. As far as I can tell, she's a single lady who didn't really have experience in this beforehand. And all of a sudden, she started building for whatever reason. It reminds me of that movie called Take Shelter, if you've ever seen that, where the main actor there starts digging a bomb shelter and spending every bit of money he has. And you're not quite sure if there's a legitimate Noah reason for him doing it or if it's just all in his head. But interesting nonetheless. So this lady, yeah, if you want to check it out, her link's in the description. I like looking for things like that. And One Step Closer says, sounds like a delinquent for sure. Yes. However, the one mistake she made was putting it all on the internet, because now it sounds like she's at least in a little bit of hot water with the extortion experts that want to make sure that she has all her paperwork and all her fees have been paid. And, she has given her alms to Caesar this week. So there you go. All right. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. I love putting together these this week in prepping. Most of this just comes out of my everyday reading that I do. If you guys see articles that you'd like to share with me, send them along my way. I love hearing it. Or oddball stories, or if you've got submissions for the cookbook of the claps, anything like that. I love it. I've got one dude who sends me stuff all the time, and I really appreciate it. This week was an article about aliens, so it didn't really fit in, but I appreciate it. So keep sending me stuff, folks, because I love you. I think it's great. So where do we go from here? All right. Sunday evening, we have an interview. It's kind of an interview. It's a bit of a mini roundtable. We're doing another butcher's roundtable. We're going to beat the meat around. So if you guys follow Backwoods Butcher and his new buddy, whom I cannot remember your name, and I absolutely apologize. They're both going to be on the show this weekend. We're going to have a hell of a time with it. It's going to be a great time. So tune in. We'll do that interview. I can't say it yet, but I don't even want to call it confirmation, but I got a follow-up email today with a couple of folks who want to be on the show, who, if we make this happen, will be, in my mind, the biggest guests I've had on the show yet. I'm stoked. I cannot wait to spill the beans when I find out. You guys will love them. That's all I can say for now. I know. What a dick. What a tease you are, Tim. I'm just excited. I really want to share, but I just can't quite yet. So if nothing comes of it, you know what? I can't anyway. But I basically we'll go from there. So that's the biggest tease you're going to get. So hang in there. We'll see you Sunday evening. And as always, stay happy, stay healthy, and have a great week.